What's up? I'm Taylor, and this is my YouTube channel. This is where I share my experience, strength, and hope. I've been on my healing journey for about 3 years now, and I made this YouTube channel because I know how many people struggle just as I used to struggle. I still am struggling. I'm still in the process of rewiring my brain because of the life that I chose to live. Change is a process. It does not happen overnight. With being in active addiction before I was a teenager, with the trauma, the dysfunction, the isolation, all these things contributed to why I became the way I became and why I became so depressed many years ago. I was so depressed before I came to 12-step programs a couple years ago, and I was sober. And so today, with all the healing and experience I have and all the new tools that I've developed and the support and the fellowship and the experience, strength and hope and all of it, they all influence each other. It's not just one particular thing that has gotten me to where I'm at today. It's everything that I have done that has gotten me to where I am today. And I wanted to make a video about what mindfulness really means to me and how I came about to understanding what mindfulness even is. I didn't grow up hearing words like mindfulness, gratitude, meditation. The only time I heard the word gratitude was once a year on Thanksgiving. My family would make me say one thing I was grateful for. But other than that, they didn't use these types of vocabulary words in my household. And definitely the people I chose to hang around did not use that type of language. So hearing these words in 12-step programs, it was unfamiliar. It sounded like a foreign language to me. So I had to actually stay long enough to where my brain could absorb these words and really interpret and understand what they meant. And I feel like, for me, with my meditation routine that I've established and the spiritual and emotional connection I've established with myself, I feel like I would hear people talk about like how beneficial meditation was in meetings, but I didn't really know how beneficial it was until I actually experienced it myself. And so what I guess I'm trying to say is, like, a person doesn't know what acceptance really is, or what gratitude really is, or what mindfulness or meditation, what these things really feel like, and the benefits of these things until they actually experience them for themselves. At least that's been my case, and this has been my experience, and that's all I have to share. That's all I have to give. And so I would hear like the word mindfulness, and my brain just couldn't wrap around what it meant. I would read the definition, right? And I know it means to stay in the present moment, to focus your mind on one thing, right? To be present. And as time went by and healing started happening and being in recovery, it started off me realizing that I was being mindful when I was petting my cat. By being present and focusing on petting my cat and the love that I share with my cat in that very moment, and nothing else mattered. That's what mindfulness is. I'll use another example. When I was able to do yard work back in the day, I used to do a lot of yard work. I used to love being out in the yard. There was like a little twig growing out the ground, a weed, but it was sort of like a branch. And I would glance at it and I would tell myself, I'm gonna cut that down one day. I'll pull that up one day. Time went by, years went by, I forgot all about it, right? And a couple months ago, I'll walk outside on my patio and I'll look to where that little twig once was, and now it's a tree. It's a tree. It's a humongous tree. And in that moment, I pause and I look at that tree and I feel gratitude for not cutting the branch down, because now it's flourished into something beautiful. It's grown. So that's mindfulness. Appreciating nature and being in the present moment and really allowing myself to feel the beauty of the gift of life is mindfulness to me. Sitting outside in my chair, looking up at the sky and being grateful for just being present with myself, not living in the past, not thinking about the future, not ruminating over my past experiences, but just being where I am and accepting where I am in this very moment, to me, is mindfulness. And before, I used to think of meditation, I would hear that and I would think of somebody sitting cross-legged, with their hands beside themselves, like and that's not what meditation is for me. And I'm sure I've made a video about this before, but I'll keep making videos because I make videos when it's on my heart. I will never make a video if I am not feeling it on my heart, because I'm a very authentic person and I truly believe that words I speak need to come from my heart and not my head. And when I first started meditation, it wasn't easy at all. It was not easy at all. I didn't just come outside, sit, and focus on my breathing and meditate. That's not how it happened for me. If it can happen like that for someone else, more power to you. But it was a very long process for me, and I'm gonna break it down on how I got to be where I'm at today with my meditation routine. First, it started with setting an alarm every night at the same time to go outside, setting the timer for 10 minutes, and just coming outside for 10 minutes every night and sitting in silence with my thoughts and observing what thoughts I continued to have and writing those thoughts down. Because what I've learned in my healing journey, that if I keep having the same reoccurring thought over and over again, then it's bothering me. It's a problem, it's an issue, or my brain wouldn't be bringing it up repetitively, right? And so it started off doing small things like that. Coming outside and sitting with a notebook, right? Writing down how I was feeling, being in touch with my emotions, being in touch with myself. I talk a lot about self-reflection because that is the only tool that has gotten me to be able to really not just identify the surface emotion, but what is underneath that surface emotion. Because I can sit here all day and say I'm sad, I'm angry, I don't feel good enough. But if I don't sit down and I don't write on paper, why do I not feel good enough? Why do I feel alone? Why do I feel unheard, unseen, or misunderstood? Why do I feel rejected? And I have self-reflected about every single situation that has happened in my life that has caused me emotional pain. I have sat down with a notebook and a piece of paper, and I have self-reflected on that situation, which has enabled me to identify things about myself that I would have never been able to identify if I didn't sit down and self-reflect. And that's the truth. A person can't heal if they're not even understanding the emotions that are going on underneath it all, And that's the thing about 12-step programs for me, the way my brain translates things and the way my brain is able to be like, there's all these different recovery programs, right? There's 12-step programs. There's Refuge Recovery, Life Ring, Dharma Recovery, all these different programs. And I can attend all different types of meetings, and my brain can translate what they're all trying to say. I'm not so focused on the labels or the vocabulary or the processes. I'm focused on the solution. And the solution is connecting to myself on a spiritual and an emotional level. And that's what all these programs have taught me. Recovery in general, healing in general. And back to what I was saying is what 12-step programs taught me is that the steps are in order for a reason. And I would make any excuse and justifications of why I couldn't make 12-step programs work. The God concept, the 4-step, any tiny reason I could find, I would use it as an excuse, and it's because I was scared. I was scared to face my pain. I was scared to face who I had become, and I was scared to write all that shit on paper and take an honest look at myself because it was too painful. And I didn't know how to cope with that pain because I had numbed out my entire life. And I observe a lot of people, and I observe myself a lot as well. I've had to since I've been in recovery. And I hear people in other programs that I attend talk about why 12-step programs couldn't work for them. And I hear a lot of excuses and justifications. And for example, I heard one individual say, because it was religious. And as they were speaking this, I'm thinking in my head, well, they have secular 12-step meetings that leave out the God concept, but people don't know that. People aren't aware of this information or the resources that are available. And that's why I created this YouTube channel. Because when I came back to 12-step programs 3 years ago, I had never heard the word secular a day in my life. I didn't even know what that word meant. I'm getting distracted because I sit out here and this bluebird visits me, and literally visits me and comes up to me. It just came up to me and did like a zoomie, like a dog does a zoomie. Every time I'm sitting out here, the bird comes and visits me. It's beautiful. And that's mindfulness right there. Perfect example of mindfulness. As I was saying, I was talking about how 12-step programs, right? And the resources, I didn't know what secular meant. And I didn't know what atheist meant. I didn't know what agnostic meant. I didn't know what all these labels really meant. And for me, I don't care about labels. I do not care about labels at all. I don't think labels help me get closer to myself or the power of life in any kind of way. And I think a lot of people will get stuck on the labels instead of seeing the solution. And I go to a lot of secular meetings because they have a lot of open-minded people there. That's what I've noticed about secular meetings. And they're focused on the solution, and they're focused on connecting to oneself on an emotional and spiritual level. And I love that about the secular aspect. And I notice that people don't have the resources or information. And it is the reason I created this YouTube channel, to provide these resources, to let people know there are other options. If you have tried 12-step programs and you have a problem with the religious aspect, with the higher power aspect, there are secular meetings that are available. But my point is that what 12-step programs have taught me, each step is in order for a reason. And I'm going to use the 4-step as an example. The 4-step taught me to do a written inventory, which taught me today to take what's in my head and self-reflect and write it down on paper. And when I self-reflect, instead of saying it out loud to someone else, as the 5th step is, the 4th step is the written inventory, the 5th step is where you read out loud your 4 steps to somebody to get it out your head and get it off your conscience, right? To be thoroughly honest. So I've taken that concept in 12-step programs and I've used that as a self-reflection tool for myself. So not only when I self-reflect do I write it down and get it out my head, but I speak it out loud to myself. I talk out loud to myself all the time. because that's what I have to do, because I can't keep everything I'm going through in my head, because it just gets stuck there. I have to have some type of outlet. But that's what 12-step programs taught me. It taught me how to take the steps and how to tweak it into my own version and my own way of doing things, and creating my own tools, right? It's like a roadmap. It's a roadmap to recovery, the 12 steps, and that's exactly what it's been for me. And what the 10th step inventory has taught me, it's taught me how to look at my day. It's taught me how to take situations that happen in my life that cause me pain, and it's taught me how to self-reflect on that. So it's not like I have to do it this way and this is the only way that it has to be done. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck on, is that they think they have to do it this way or no way at all, right? But what I've learned in my recovery is that I've learned to break recovery down into 3 parts. The first part, spiritual connection to self and or a power greater than oneself. The second part, emotional connection to self and emotional well-being, emotional sobriety. Am I maintaining my emotional sobriety? The third part, the physical part, right? Am I being sober? Am I checking my motives with taking medication? Am I eating healthy? Am I exercising? Am I taking care of myself physically? So if I'm maintaining all 3 parts of recovery, it doesn't matter what recovery program I do, because I can get fellowship in any recovery program I go to. And I've created a daily recovery schedule. And I say this in every video because this plays a vital part in my recovery, in my life in general. I would not be able to be where I'm at without creating a daily recovery schedule. And that daily recovery schedule consists of doing one 12-step meeting or any recovery meeting a day, because that's where I get my fellowship. I'm not isolating. I'm hearing other people's experiences, strengths, and hopes. I'm learning from other people, right? I share in meetings also. Am I talking nice to myself, right? Am I utilizing positive self-talk? Like, how am I talking to myself throughout the day? Do I have a morning and nighttime routine? Because I tell you what, I've learned how to tweak my morning routine in a way that works for me. And I would hear people in 12-step meetings talk about how they would wake up, get up, go sit outside and meditate and do their readings, right? And I honestly tried doing that for many, many months, but I am just not a morning person like that. I'm really not. And so I figured out my own morning routine, which consists of, I've gotten to a point in my recovery where I don't have to reach for my phone to scroll on YouTube in the morning anymore, which took a lot of inner work, okay? A lot of, let's say, self-discipline. And what I've done for me in the morning is that I've got like 4 alarms set, because that's just how my brain has to work. But for each alarm, I have a different tone. So I know what tone in which alarm I need to actually get up, which helps my brain. But when the first alarm goes off, I hit it and I lay in bed and I meditate and I self-reflect and I do positive self-talk and I motivate myself. I do intentions. I don't really like to say affirmations. I prefer to say intentions, since I've learned exactly what intentions are. But I rather say I motivate myself. I encourage myself. I lay in the bed and I express gratitude for the day. I am grateful to wake up today. Today is going to be a good day. And I do that. And that's part of my morning routine. And when that last alarm goes off, I always have a book by my nightstand. And I read just a couple paragraphs out that book just to put something fresh in my mind. And then I start my day and I have a routine of doing the house stuff, and I'm doing positive self-talk out loud while I'm doing the things I'm doing, motivating myself, pumping myself up for the day, making myself feel good, right? And I take my daughter to school. And then when I come home from taking my daughter to school, that's when I come outside and I spend time with myself for 20 to 30 minutes. And I make sure that I make time in between the sessions I do, in between the things that I do for my recovery. I put at least 30 minutes in between each priority I do to take time to sit in silence and connect and pause and slow down. So my point is that everybody has their own way of doing their own routine. It's just taken me a very long time to figure out what works for me and what doesn't work for me. And the main focus on this video was about mindfulness, which I did cover, but obviously this was on my heart, so this needed to come out. And so mindfulness and meditation has really helped me calm down. I used to be the type of person I could not sit still at all. I've been diagnosed with ADHD, but I do not like labels. I believe that all mental health disorders are just a way to explain a person's characteristics that they have, that they're just characteristics that we develop throughout our lifetime, and they just come up with a mental health diagnosis for that, for characteristics that we have. That's my perspective on it. It's just characteristics to explain who we are or the types of behaviors we have, right? I used to twirl my hair 24/7, even in my sleep, before I started meditation. Now, I don't twirl my hair at all. And I'm not on any types of ADHD medication, on anything like that. There are videos with me explaining why I came off 7 different psych meds, because they were killing me. And my motives for taking them were not pure. I was trying to escape. And so these are things that I've had to work on really hard. I've had to put in a lot of inner work. Meetings weren't enough for me. I had to make healing my life the way I made addiction my life. And I had to do that with healing. And I had to throw myself into healing. And eventually, everything balances out. It always does, and it always will. And what recovery's taught me, it's taught me how to face pain. That tree I spoke about earlier when I was speaking about mindfulness. You know, I'll walk outside, and if I'm feeling emotionally low or stressed out, I come outside on my patio, I look up at that tree, and I feel gratitude. And I feel grateful that I didn't cut that tree down. And I appreciate life, and it makes my sadness dissipate. It brings me back up. It brings me to balance again. So it's the little things that I do every single day that measure up to the big things that happen and that continue to happen in my life, because pain is always going to be a part of our lives. But the way we manage and navigate and deal with pain matters. And if we're not taught how to deal with pain, just as I'm speaking from experience, because I was in active addiction my entire life and came from a very dysfunctional home and had a very shitty childhood. If I wasn't willing to face that childhood and feel the feelings behind that childhood and grieve and process and learn to forgive myself and talk to myself more nicely, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And so I hope that my videos can help someone else find their healing, find the love within themselves that they already have. You know, that's why I truly believe in claiming the power I have already in myself. Instead of asking an outside, external, higher power to give me strength, I say I have the strength, because I do have the strength within myself. I just had to clear a lot of things from my past. I had to heal a lot of things from my past to find the strength that I already had and still have within myself. Nobody's going to show up for you the way you can show up for you. And I've had to learn that in recovery. And so mindfulness and meditation plays a major part in my recovery and the way I process